Good morning. My name is Jeremy Staples. I'm one of the Associate Deans in the Faculty of Business. Many of you have your laptops open, and so you should, and that's cool, you should have received an email from Brenda this morning, which had a Word document in it. So if you happen to have your laptop with you, please open it up, take a look at that document. I'm not going to go through the document unless anybody wants me to. I'm just going to talk about it, but I mostly want to speak this morning about some highlights and to answer questions that you may have about the BBA degrees. So what I want to do is to celebrate failure, just as a beginning point. And I didn't know that we were going to have the student here to talk about failure, but the importance of failure in all of our lives is really, really quite critical. And this graphic that you'll see up here, how many of you know who David Kelly is? A few? Anybody of you heard of IDEO, or the design company in Stanford out in California? He's written a new book. It's called Creative Confidence. And much of what's in Creative Confidence, I think, talks very much to what we're trying to do with the BBA degrees and how we're trying to create students that have a perspective on life that talks about the importance of learning, about understanding who they are and shifting away from this performance orientation that we see in our students, that we see in society. This infographic was put up by David Kelly at a talk he did at the Rotman School of Management about 3 weeks ago. And for those of you who don't know me, my all-time favorite book of all time is in this infographic. And you'll see it's towards the top. It says Carol Dweck. And Carol Dweck wrote the book called Mindset. And mindsets are really fundamentally a lot about what we're trying to do here with our students in terms of shifting them from that performance orientation into a learning orientation. I'm not going to talk about that a lot this morning, but why I'm raising this is because what we have designed within these degrees is being validated again and again and again by so many independent people doing some really neat things. So David Kelly is one example of them. I was at another event which were members of AACSB, which is the International Business Schools Accreditation Organization. And there was a gentleman there that was doing a whole presentation on development of critical thinking skills. And that's what I hear from faculty most often is, how do we develop the students' critical thinking capacity? And it's not just critical thinking, it's creative thinking. And it's not just creative thinking, it's how do we develop their reflective thinking capacity, because that's when they finally begin to get it. They finally begin to make that transition into learning. So that's what these degrees are about. Now, there's a whole bunch of mechanics associated with that. But from a big picture perspective, what's really exciting is our design has been validated again and again and again. One of the things we're doing right now is promoting these degrees. And honestly, we're probably not doing a very good job of it. Given that we only started in October, we're probably doing okay, but we're not doing as good a job as we should be. And that was evidenced on Monday. We had 120, 140 high school students come in on Monday for a full-day workshop session on creative leadership. I had, and there's 4 people I want to recognize for their contributions, Annalisa Longmore, Chuck Minkin, Scott Hadley, and Peter Buffard, who took time out of their week to run workshops for these students. And the feedback we got from the students, because it was experiential applied learning, it was content memorization that's tossed out the window, it's all about their application of learning, was unbelievable. The recruitment people have never seen such positive feedback from students ever before. The feedback from teachers was equally positive. The teachers are now wanting to partner with us. They want to bring students into Sheridan. They see this as a phenomenal opportunity for their students, something that was missing for them. And so that's the secret of this degree, of all of these degrees, it's not about the content, it's about what we're teaching them to be able to do and to be successful in the future. Because change is the only constant that we can guarantee them. And if they can't cope with change, they will die and wither in our new world. So that's a lot about what design thinking talks about. And that's why I wanted to show you that infographic, because I would really encourage you to read both Mindset and this Creative Confidence book if you're interested in learning more about this. We're going to be doing a number of things to continue on with the promotion of this activity. And there's a lot of detail within that information I've just shared with you. We're going to be doing more training. We're going to be using a whole bunch of different approaches and philosophies. And you'll see them, some of them are listed off in there, and I'm happy to answer questions about any of them in that context. We have had an incredible response from the applicants. You'll see in that note we have 800 and almost 900 applications to these programs to this point in time. Almost 400 offers have been mailed out. Whilst it's a bit of a roll of the dice and we don't really know how many of them will finally convert, but based on our GBM conversion right now, I'm pretty certain we're going to reach the 120. We may hit as high as 180 for September. We have engaged with a social media company because we know that traditional marketing methods don't work. And they are getting us into Google AdWords searches, and we're getting hits up at in the first and second and third level. So we're becoming number 1, number 2, number 3 when students are searching for keywords. It's not costing us a lot of money, which is really very curious. And I learned something about Twitter yesterday, because I don't, lots of things I don't know. I tweeted this infographic, and within the space of 3 hours, Tom and David Kelly, the guy that wrote the infographic, had retweeted my tweet to 4,500 of his followers. And then in the space of another hour, there were another 8 to 9 people that had retweeted something that I thought was, meh. I think it's really cool personally, but a lot of other people are really interested in it. So we're trying to figure out how we can effectively connect to our students that live in that world. Whilst we may not, they clearly do. So, enough from me. Do you have questions? Greg?
The packs for the diplomas currently, what's the vision for packs for BBA? One big pack, little packs, the same packs as packs?
That's in one of those we're figuring that out bucket at this point in time. So I don't have a final decision. We've got some ideas. But remember that essentially there's a lot of commonality across these degrees, right? Within that list that I gave you, 20 of the courses are common. It's not just first and second year. It's an integrated degree across all 5 subjects. So we're trying to figure out how to make the best use of the packs that we have, not to duplicate effort, but to try and make sure we bring everybody together in a collaborative way that will help us maintain the leading edge on these degrees. These degrees do not exist in many other places. If you look at the other college degrees, you will not see them this way. Their structure is different, their philosophy is different, the design is different. So we're working on that. There's lots of things we're working on. I'm working as fast as I can, yes?
So I got my answer, but I have another question.
Yep.
I'm new, so
okay.
I don't know what a pack was, but the person helped.
Excellent, all right.
Thank you.
So just to make sure that everybody else knows what a PAC is a professional advisory committee. It's changed names. Used to be a program advisory committee, it's now professional, but their purpose in life is to make sure that what we're doing is relevant to what they're looking for.
Okay. So the 120 to 180, and you may have been talking about, there's a few little buzzwords that go around here, so I kind of lose the train of the discussion.
Yep.
But is that first year through to, is it, first of all, a 4-year degree?
4-year degree.
Okay. And the 120 to 180, is that people starting in first year? Or
Yes. Only people starting in first year in September of this year.
Pick up some third years, like I hear a lot from the students.
Yeah, so this is the most common question I get, so that's great. Thank you for asking, because I knew somebody needed to do it, because everybody is the elephant in the room. What are we doing about students that are finishing second and third year? So there's a little piece in the document that I just sent out. If the students are in second year, tell them to stay and complete third year. Okay? We cannot take transfer students in until the fall of 2015. And that's it's not we're trying to be difficult, it's purely mechanical. Because if we take students in this September, we need to have third and fourth year courses ready for them to take. And we just don't have the time to do that. And what we want to do is to create an exceptional learning experience for these students. We want to get them into this model where they understand the importance of trial and error, that they understand the importance of experimentation, they understand the importance of learning through failure, and understanding that learning is everything, and grades are simply a byproduct of learning. So the reason we can't do anything with them until 2015 is literally we don't have the courses for them. Okay? Some people will, that's why I say the second year students should stay on. They need a 3.0 cumulative GPA. That's all they need. So if they get a D in the subject, it's not the end of the world, but they do need a 3.0. We are expanding enrollment, whether it be in this September or in January or next September, to accommodate every student that meets the entrance requirements. So we're not creating barriers for them. We're just trying to make sure we can create the right kind of experience for them. Okay, so third year students will need to wait until fall of 2015. Second year students should be told to stay on and do another year. It will help them advance their timing. If you have a student in first year, just as an example, because this has come up, finishing first year right now and saying, what should I do? How do I get into the degrees? They do have an alternate option, and it won't extend the length of time that they have to spend here at Sheridan. If they have the admission requirements, which are the grade 12 at U or M level in 6 subjects with a math, one of the 2 core maths, and the grade 12 U English, then they can start in September in year 1. They will get no credit for what they've done to this point in time. Okay, I know it sounds harsh, but that's just the way the rules are. We can't do anything about that. But really, think about it, it's going to take them 5 years to get their degree. If they stay on, do 2 years, start in fall of 2015, it's essentially going to take them 3 years to get their degree. So either way, it's going to be 5 years. Does that make sense? Yeah. Chuck?
Just a question, because we're getting a lot of questions from diploma grads or potential diploma grads. Can they come in as part-time students, take comp and rhetoric?
Okay, so
courses?
It's a good question, and that was in the email as well. I'm working on creating part-time enrollment, not just for transfer students, but for all students. Yeah. So any student could register as a part-time student. So the objective here is to create an incredibly flexible, modular environment. Students can start full-time, switch into part-time, start part-time, switch into full-time. The idea, the model is that all first year and second year courses, because they're all common, will run in all 3 semesters. So the students will be able to build their own pattern and their own path.
It's just that you can't guarantee a 2-year pathway, right? So
the challenge for students that are finishing their 3-year diploma this year and wanting to start part-time in fall of 2014, okay, I haven't got that confirmed, but here's the plan, if the registrar's office can make it happen, is it's okay for them to do that, but we have to be very careful about advising them that it will not accelerate the point at which they can finish, because the courses that they need, those same courses we talked about, won't be ready, right? It's just for this 1 year, and I know it's frustrating for them, I get that, but we could not figure out a way to do it any faster, so that if they come in, if they've done a 3-year diploma, all the 3-year diplomas need to do 21 courses in the degree. Okay? That's equivalent 5 courses a semester, basically 4 semesters plus 1 course. So if they come in and do 1 or 2 courses in the next academic year on a part-time basis, it reduces their course load when they actually transfer in fall of 2015, but it will not accelerate the time at which they finish.
Did the part-time have the same admission requirements as the full?
Yes. They must meet those admission requirements. Personally, no. That is one of the challenges that I've left with the registrar's office, because I asked the question, what would be the cost of a part-time degree course? And it would appear nobody's actually figured that out. So that's a TBA.
Who can we give students to speak to if they have questions that Frontline can't answer?
Right now,
Yeah.
some of them get to me, and some of them get to Chuck. Chuck and I have worked together for 10 years. It has been a phenomenal partnership. So whoever's available. And we're both happy. I mean, last night we had a little bit of an open house. So we've made offers to students that met the admission requirements that didn't apply to the degree but applied to the diploma. There's about 50 of them. They were asked to come in last night if they had questions. Now, only 2 showed up, but I still spent, and I'm okay with that. 2 showed up. I spent the full hour with them, answering all their questions and giving them information. And I'm reasonably sure that after they went home, they signed up. So, the other day I spent 45 minutes on the phone with a young lady that was looking for a career change. She'd done journalism, realized that journalism wasn't something that's really going to be a growth industry in the future, and was now looking to enroll and register in the supply chain management degree. Now, from my perspective, I think that's really awesome. And I said to her, journalism's an awesome program. There's an awful lot of learning that you've done in that. One of the key things, and if you look it up, TonyWagner.com, the 7 essential skills for survival in the 21st century, around which these degrees are modeled, is communication skills. So she has a huge advantage now because she's already developed some of those communication skills that some of our other students won't have. So all learning is good as long as learning is being done for the purposes of learning and developing your personal self as opposed to worrying about the grade. Is that funny? Sorry, I probably need glasses. My family keep telling me I need glasses.
So, I mean, did everybody hear the question? It's related to transfer students and whether or not they will get credit for having completed some of the basic courses in the business degree in order to avoid having to do the full first year of what is normally a 2-year MBA program. A typical BCom student or BBA student gets exemption from the first year. So the response to that is there are a number of courses within the transfer program that we have included in the transfer requirements in order for what we believe to make the student successful. So some of them may get them automatically.
Okay? There are other situations where students have different focuses and different perspectives, and we will absolutely talk to students about what the implications are of transferring in and what that may mean to you in terms of the courses that you might have to do. But I'll give you a parallel. Chuck and I met with McMaster to talk about the GBM degree. This is now two years ago. And they looked at the GBM degree and they said, great, we'll give them exemption from first year with the exception of one course. Because within the GBM degree, where's Judy? Is Judy here? John's here, Laurie's here. They don't take an HR course in first or second year. So the universities are...
And Judy told us we had to.
Yeah, and Judy told us when we designed it that we needed that course in there. What that means is the universities are doing it on a case-by-case basis. So they're not just saying, you need to take every course. They're looking at what you've done and then saying, here's what you need to do to make up the gap that you may not have. Now, there's nothing to stop a student doing more than 40 credits, 40 courses with us. If that's their intention to go on to do their MBA, and they say, well, I need another 4 courses, they can do another 4 courses. There's no problem with that. So it is about how do we counsel them through that process. And so that question, I'll get to you Ashley one second, that question may come up. We have letters of support from Laurier and McMaster saying when they looked at our curriculum that it meets the entrance requirements to be considered for an MBA. Because that comes up fairly frequently, questions from students. Can I use this degree to get into my MBA? I can't guarantee they're going to get into an MBA because they need a GMAT, they need work experience, they need a GPA. But taking our degree does not block them from being considered and going through their application and meeting their criteria. Ashley.
I was curious if we were doing honors and what that would look like.
Say that again?
So they take a BBA.
Yes.
And then you have honors. So in British Columbia, honors meant you took an extra 12 credits, and if your GPA was over 3.8, you got first class honors. And then if you just took a regular honors, it was an extra 8 credits, which was 2 or 3 courses. And then you got a BBA with honors.
Right. So every province does things differently. Yeah. And honors degrees are normal here if you just take the 4-year program within Ontario. So there's no consistency in what honors means. Okay. Notwithstanding that, the provincial government, in their wisdom, have decided that colleges are unable to use the word honors. So this is, being honest with the students, we used to call them applied business degrees. They are not applied business degrees. These are undergraduate degrees, Bachelor of Business Administration. We can't use honors. Right? Within the structure of the degrees, although it may not be evident to you, there are 3 specialization areas, and we're unable to call them minors. We're not allowed to use that word. So we call them specializations, and we're going to figure out a way for them to get a certificate if they complete the requirements of doing that. Any other questions? John?
I may have misheard, but just for clarification, I thought I heard you say that the content's not important.
No, that's not true. The content is absolutely important, but the differentiator is the way in which we teach them to learn about that content and what we do with that content. So content memorization is not a particularly useful activity anymore, as employers continue to tell us, but how you use that content in a new situation is relevant. Thank you, John, for keeping me honest.
So that sort of dovetails into my question around the student experience. So I went to university, this is my 30-year reunion this year, so a long time ago. And there's a definite university experience. Now I teach here, never having gone to college, and it's a completely different experience. So where will the BBA experience lie? Do you know what I mean by that? Like the lectures and the lack of interaction at the university level?
Well, we're going to continue our strong heritage in creating environments where we're engaging with students in their learning. So this is the only room built like this in this campus. So it's not possible for us to even think about doing lectures. I mean, it would go against our DNA to start doing that. The objective here is to create applied learning experiences where students can learn concepts and then apply them to new and unusual situations so they know how to deal with change. Is that okay?
Will the courses be hybrid or will they be 3 hours?
Depends on what you mean by the use of the word hybrid. What we're experimenting with, and a lot of this has been developed based on faculty experience, faculty experimentation with a whole bunch of different models. So these degrees have not been created in isolation. They're building on our experiences in a whole number of different programs across the institution and a whole number of different activities that people have been involved in. We're actually adopting a model called the flipped classroom model. So the flipped classroom model its intent is to create material that the student can review multiple times. It will be online and available for them to access repeatedly. And the expectation is that they will look at that material before they come to class so that when they're in class, they can actually apply that knowledge that they've learned into the new situation and get questions answered by their professor in that situation. Now, some would say, that doesn't work, but we have evidence from faculty, I'm not sure where they are, but some of them are in this room, where it actually does work. And so we're taking a stand that says, this is the model we're using, we're going to help you with this transition, we're creating a whole series of experiences for students to help them shift from that performance orientation into a learning orientation, to get them ready for this flipped classroom model, so that the experience increases its value to them and ultimately to their employers. So the actual physical time in class will be a 2-hour time slot at this point in time. And we're looking at how we create a 1-hour virtual tutorial environment for students to join should they need clarification on whatever it is that they didn't understand after the other steps in the process. This is a bit of a grand experiment. I don't pretend to stand here at the front of the room and have all the answers, but what I can tell you is I'm awed and inspired by the group of faculty that we have in the whole room, but especially the smaller team that's right now working on this model and their willingness to step out of what we might term our restrictive boundaries that we sometimes place on ourselves and to try stuff. And we're developing a community of practice that talks about, here's what we've done, here's what's worked, here's what's not worked, and trying to create that environment which says it's okay to try stuff out and, going back to our student, to learn from our failures. Any others? Have I run out of time? I'm sure I've run out of time. Before I go, because this is probably the last opportunity I will get to do this with everybody in the room at the same time, I do want to just make one small announcement. My partner in crime for the last 10 years is retiring. And Chuck has been with me since the day I started here and has been a fundamental part of everything we've been able to achieve in those 10 years. So I want to thank Chuck publicly for everything that he has done in those last 10 years. I could not have done it, and Sheridan could not have done all the things that we have done without your expertise and insight and support and willingness to venture off into the wild areas that I sometimes go into and bring me back to reality every now and again. In recognition of that, Chuck has been nominated by Sheridan to be Sheridan's representative for the ACCC Award of Excellence for Teaching Excellence. And we will find out the results of that at the end of March. But So I just wanted to recognize Chuck publicly for everything that he's done. He will be retiring with us at the end of June, but he is going to still be around in an unknown capacity at this point in time for the next year or two, helping and support us as we go through this transition. So thank you, Chuck.